This one's for YouTube. So, if I had every penny in the world, I'd bet it all on myredbook.com Republican felons, rapists, solicitors of rape, perjurers, suborners of perjury, solicitors of perjury, attackers, solicitors of attacking, assaulters, solicitors of assaulting, 422 PC death threat makers, stalkers, solicitors of stalking, libel writers, solicitors of libel writing, cyber stalkers, solicitors of cyber stalking, slanders, solicitors of slandering, blackhat hackers, solicitors of blackhat hacking, solicitors of murder, attempted murderers, witness intimidators, solicitors of witness intimidation, obstructors of justice, solicitors of obstruction of justice, bribers, solicitors of bribery, blackmailers, solicitors of blackmailing, extortionists, solicitors of extortion, kickback providers, solicitors of kickback providing, kickback receiving, solicitors of kickback receiving, ex-mafia members Greg and Glenn Chappell, 2838 Concord Lane, Santa Clara, California, 95051, 408-247-5330, 408-247-5330, 408-606-0620, 408-606-0620, 408-500-7328, 408-500-7328, 666 Fairlane Avenue, Cliff Lou, graduate of MIT with a PhD in chemistry, graduate of Stanford Law School. His old law firm made him sign a non-disclosure agreement, probably, because he got caught doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing. And said that if he signed it, that they wouldn't go seeking disbarment. Aidan Keefe, University of California at Davis, 1 Shields Avenue, 95616. And Cornell, like myredbook.com, Republican felon, etc., pretending to be a doctor, Ari Kriegsman, who's actually corrupt DOJ. myredbook.com, Republican felon, etc., Alexander Dragonetti, New Jersey, like myredbook.com, Republican felon, etc., pretending to be a doctor, is actually corrupt DOJ, Ari Kriegsman. David Badigan, and the felons, the myredbook.com Republican felons, etc., at the myredbook.com terrorist organization, criminal organization that wants to be referred to as a POPO department, 95051. I would bet every single penny, if I had it, that they spend quite a lot of their time texting one another. Pretty much did all day today, probably. Talking about all the crimes they've committed. Talking about how to commit more crimes. Talking about how they're going to, find a way to put Rohypnol, liquid Rohypnol, in my beverages now that I am locking and closing my door and separating the downstairs from the upstairs by closing the door and barricading it. Then again, I'm sure they know how to use the tricks of the trade offered up by, I don't know, the lock-picking attorney on YouTube. So I'm sure they're still able to get into my room. Anyway, so yeah, they're probably talking about all the ways that they can continue to Rohypnol and RAPE me. And they're probably talking about the fact that they're all powerful, and how, myredbook.com Republican mafia, ex-mafia members, Greg and Glenn Chappell, that their family members are mafia members, so they own all of corrupt law enforcement, so they'll get away with everything and they'll never have to spend a day in prison. And the Santa Clara Criminal Department that wants to be known as Popo Department, they're probably laughing their behinds off. All it is a criminal organization. But that pretty much goes for all the places in the Bay Area that want to be referred to as Popo departments, like, oh, I don't know, Mountain View, 94040, Sunnyvale, 94087, 94086, Redwood City, San Mateo, South San Francisco. They all want to be referred to as Popo departments, but they're nothing more than criminal organizations. Anyway, so besides sending each other text messages all the time, I'm sure all these myredbook.com Republican felons, etc., are using disappearing text messages and disappearing emails, you know, because when you send email these days, you can set it to 10, 20, 30 seconds before it disappears. But then there's always been disappearing notes. Well, not always, but for years and years and years, there have been disappearing notes that you can send, I mean, online. And you can set it for like a specific amount of time or whatever. That's been going on since before email allowed you to set disappearing email for 10, 20, 30 seconds. Oh, I know. So I was born a female, right? So I'm not supposed to know these things, right? How dare did I know these things? And how dare I know these things not being married and never having been married? How dare I know these things not having kids? How dare I know these things, you know, wanting to be platonic for the rest of my life? How dare I know these things? So is that why when the police participated, criminals, not police, criminals. When the criminals participated in, you know, making sure that my lungs were partially collapsed, I mean, being that, you know, they're texting and sending disappearing emails and stuff with all the rest of the myredbook.com Republican felons on Concord Lane and Fairlane and Toledo and stuff, they probably know that I have an intramedullary rod in my femur. But, I mean, I've been upfront about that for a long time online anyway, so they know that. So, you know, you could say that when they illegally arrested me and illegally shoved me on the bed and stuff, caused my lungs to be partially collapsed, they were premeditatively trying to break my femur again, hoping that I would bleed out this time. I say that's premeditated murder, or premeditated attempted murder, at least, as well as assault and God knows how many other things. Sorry, I said God. That explains how, you know, the night that, or the morning, 2:30 a.m. or whatever on the 8th, when the ambulance came to pick me up and, you know, a pal of myredbook.com, Republican felon, etc., David Badden showed up from the myredbook.com Republican wants to be a fire department, criminal department. That explains how he knew that I had an intramedullary rod in my leg as well. I mean, I didn't see him look at anything. I didn't see him look at any notes or look up anything or, you know, spend any time trying to figure it out. He just knew. Disappearing emails. Good old disappearing emails. Good old disappearing text messages. Good old disappearing notes. You know what I'd like to see? I'm going to kind of change direction, but it's sort of in the same thought process. I'd like to see everybody related to quote-unquote law enforcement, be it wardens, assistant wardens, associate wardens, vice wardens, chiefs of police, captains, sergeants, lieutenants, street cops, sidewalk cops, desk cops, corrections officers, stenographers, meter maids, state police officers, FBI agents, CIA agents, judges, presiding judges, beat cops, bailiffs, court clerks, courtroom clerks. I'd like to see that every single one of their emails and every single one of their text messages, including, well, not including, but like every single text message and every single phone call and every single email that they have sent, that should be available to the public. All of it. And they should not be allowed to send disappearing emails or disappearing text messages or disappearing notes. And that should be off duty and on duty. That's what I'd like to see. And we should be allowed to see their home cameras being filmed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like their Ring cameras, that should be available to the public as well. No secrets. Be transparent. And people should be able to pat down officers as long as they're going to pretend to be officers. And, you know, when you put somebody under citizen's arrest, no matter who it is, they need to obey that. Period. End of story. Law enforcement or not, conducted to law enforcement or not, they need to obey it. Period. End of story. And that's where I'm leaving off right now.